In this lesson, we're going to work through some examples of the things we learned in Chapter 1 and apply some of these and hopefully add some clarification. So as we go through these exercises, I'm going to start by always asking a question, and then I'll pause for 5 to 10 seconds before I give the answer. I think it would be best if you think about the answer first before you view the answers, so I'd encourage you, if you need to pause the recording to give yourself more time to think about it before you proceed. So let's get started. This first set of questions we're going to look at, is this a microeconomic topic or a macroeconomic topic? So first example, freezes in Florida cause orange juice prices to rise. So this would be a microeconomic topic because it focuses on one specific price or one specific product. We're just looking at orange juice rather than looking at the overall price level or inflation. One price going up doesn't tell us what's happening to prices in general. So this sometimes creates confusion for students when I've had face-to-face classes because we think about this of saying, well, it's going to have a nationwide impact on orange juice prices. That's true. But it's still only focusing on the orange juice price, not the price level in general, which would make it more of a microeconomic topic. Second one, reduced investment causes interest rates to fall. So this would be a macroeconomic idea, and maybe that isn't obvious unless you've taken a macroeconomics course, but investment is one of the four main components of gross domestic product. And so we're looking at changes in the typical interest rate. We're not specifying a very specific interest rate. We're saying what's happening to interest rates in general, and how is that affecting the overall level of investment, which is one of our macroeconomic measurements. Market speculation causes crude oil prices to rise. So this one's confusing because it really could be both. We could think of this in the same way we thought about the orange juice example before. We're looking at a very specific product. We're only looking at a single price. And so if we're analyzing the crude oil prices in that sense, this is a microeconomic topic. However, this could also be viewed as a macroeconomic topic simply because crude oil is a basic source of energy. So if crude oil becomes more pricey, energy becomes more pricey, and so all of our production methods are going to have increased costs, and that's going to have sort of a ripple effect across the economy. So we could look at this as macroeconomic simply because it has a nationwide impact on energy prices. The unemployment rate rises to 9%. So this would be a macroeconomic topic. We're trying to look at what's going on in our labor markets at the national level. So the unemployment rate gives us a national measurement to provide a snapshot of overall labor market performance, and it's not a perfect measurement. If you've taken a macro class, I'm sure you've explored that. And this is one of the examples I used in the lecture to talk about this distinction between micro and macro. This is one of our big national measurements. An automobile plant closes, causing 1,000 workers to lose their jobs. So here we're still looking at people losing their jobs, which sounds like unemployment, but we're looking at it on a much smaller scale. And so this would be microeconomic in nature. We're looking at a smaller labor market impact, and it doesn't really tell us that unemployment necessarily is worse because we don't know what happened to those 1,000 workers. Perhaps they were easily found jobs elsewhere, in which case the unemployment rate hasn't changed. But even so, if they didn't find jobs elsewhere, 1,000 worker change in terms of the national economy isn't going to be picked up in the data very strongly. All right, I'd like to finish this with an example looking at marginal analysis. So we're looking at this table, and the idea behind this table is we're thinking about spending money on marketing, whatever product we're trying to sell. So if we spend $100,000 on marketing, that would generate an extra 4,750 sales if we do television ads. But if we spend that $100,000 on radio ads, we only get 950 extra sales being generated. That's our expectation based on our market research. So let's suppose that we have $1 million to spend, and we're deciding what's the best split. How much do we want to spend on TV ads, and how much do we want to spend on radio ads? So I think, at first glance, most people would say, well, obviously, these numbers are all bigger than these numbers. So we should put all the money, the full $1 million on TV, and we'll get 25,000 extra sales generated from that. That's looking at just these totals. And I gave you a table that only showed totals so that we could talk about why marginal analysis might give us something different. So if we took that as our starting point, put $1 million in TV ads, what did that last $100,000 do for us? That last $100,000 caused our sales to rise from 24,750 up to 25,000. So we got an extra 250 sales out of that. But if we had put that same $100,000 in radio ads, that would have generated an extra 950 additional sales. So clearly, that last $100,000 would have done more benefit in radio ads compared to TV ads. And if we went one step back and said, okay, what about, the next last $100,000? If we went from only spending $900,000 only on TV ads and cut that back to $800,000, that last $100,000 there generated an extra 750 sales. That same $100,000 expenditure on radio ads would have caused us to have 850 extra sales. So that money, again, is better spent on radio advertising than it would be on television advertising. And if we did this again, we would find that we were better off with the TV ads anyway. So the best split would be to spend $200,000 on radio ads and to spend $800,000 on TV ads. And if we combine those two totals, we find that we have expected sales of 25,800. So clearly better than the obvious choice of putting it all on TV ads and getting 25,000 in sales. So that's a nice example on why we might want to think about small changes instead of just looking at these totals. So that's where we're going to leave with this. Our next lecture is going to start into Chapter 3. We're skipping over Chapter 2. Chapter 3 has a lot of topics in it. And so in order to keep these files a little bit smaller and in order to keep your attention better and not have you watching a video that's an hour and a half long, I split it up into a number of smaller topics. There's I think 4 different sets of lectures to talk about Chapter 3, and that's where we're going next.